Hey, King. So today we're talking about buying a business. What sort of things do we need to be looking at and whether it's worth buying a business?
Thanks. So yeah, so I guess the first part I want to talk about here, in a sense, is when what will typically happen when you're looking at buying a business is you've probably spotted a business on a business broker's website, or you've been given the heads up that someone's selling the business or something, and it's something that you would like to buy. I mean, let's say you like surfing and you've seen there's a surf retail shop, for argument's sake, on the market. You think, well, it interests me. It's something I could see myself doing. And then should I buy it? And I guess it's, how much effort should I be putting in at the front end? Just because it's on the market doesn't necessarily mean I should be rushing to buy it. And the key issue at the front end is typically how much money it's making versus how much the seller wants for you to buy it. And the key quick issue, when someone comes into me with the figures, they'll have probably got the last couple of years' profit and losses from the broker or the seller's accountant. And let's take a little example there. It's a surf shop. Let's say it's been advertised as they wanted to sell it for $300,000 and it makes $100,000 profit. Now, face value, just stopping there, that looks pretty good. That's a 33% return. But when people come with those figures, the first thing I'll do when that profit loss is I'll go down and try to establish, is there wages there for the owners, so that we can see, have they allowed for the labour that the owners are putting into that business? Because if they haven't, then it's quite likely that they're doing, at least a 40-hour week, if not more. And in that case, what I try to get people to do is even though you're not going to do this, you're probably going to be in there, the business yourself, is to pretend you're an absentee owner for a moment and say, okay, well, if I was to buy this business for $300,000 and put in a manager, I would have to pay that manager, let's say, $80,000 a year to do the work that the current owners are doing. So now that business only makes $20,000. Am I prepared to pay $300,000 for something that only makes $20,000? And of course, most people say, well, no, I'm not. And that the beauty of doing that little mental exercise is you're splitting your return between the bit you're getting from the labour you're putting into the business versus the bit you're getting for putting your capital into the business. Because on the flip side, if you saw a job ad that said, come and earn $100,000 wage, but you have to pay me $300,000 for the pleasure of coming and working for me, no one would apply for that job. But that's what effectively some of these business sale ads are. So it's doing those sort of sums at the front end. Another classic would be the current owners own the building that it's operating from. They own the shop. They haven't been charging themselves any rent. And so again, when you buy it, you're only buying the business. You're not buying the shop. So you're going to have to pay them rent. That might be $50,000 a year. So again, you're like, okay, $50,000, and it's going to cost me $300,000. Am I going to do it? And have they, if they haven't allowed for wages either, well, you're now looking at something that's sort of making negative money in a way. So there's that piece to see. So what you could find is on different sort of numbers. Let's say it was making $200,000 and they wanted $600,000 for it or something. Or you say, well, hang on, I've got to take out $80,000 for my wage component. So now it makes $120,000 on $600,000. Maybe not great, but perhaps that's where negotiation can begin. And you might be able to get them down to a price where that makes sense, albeit that price would have to drop probably a fair bit. Because you are looking to make probably around, as much as I've sort of, doing that 33% return, that's probably what you're looking for, because if, the tax man's going to want his piece out of that, that could be 25, 30 odd percent. If you're probably borrowing some, if not all the money, the banks, there's interest there. So that, there's another 15, 20,000, probably at least in interest, if not more. And then of course you want to pay the loan back. So then you've got some principal that's got to be paid back. And then, of course, on top of that, you've got to live. So you do need businesses to be making those sorts of levels of returns, because again, that's something people get surprised at, is you're saying I need to make 25, 30% returns. Well, when you work out the sums, yeah, you do, or it's just not going to work. So that's the key sorts of things I like to get people to do at the very front end, so that we can establish, okay, this business is priced at a level where it makes sense, or it's close to where it makes sense for me to go to the next stage, to doing things like due diligence or talking to the bank. There's that business there at 300,000, that surf shop, $300,000, 100 grand profit, but no allowance for the owner. There's no point in you spending any more time and effort on that unless we can get something changed drastically in the price.
Awesome. So it's definitely worth always looking at those numbers and having a chat with your accountant about whether those numbers make sense, even if it's just a brief chat, not going into that full due diligence, but it's definitely worth investigating before jumping.
Yes. So you're not spending time paying your accountant, paying lawyers, paying hordes of time with bank managers when there was no prospect that was going to happen, and you're actually moving towards doing something that's dumb. Stop
Awesome.
and wait for the price to drop, or look at a different business.
Awesome. Thank you very much for those hot tips, Kingsley.